This podcast is made possible by supporters like you. Mahalo. And by Atlas Insurance Agency, Hawaii's largest professional agency, helping Hawaii navigate insurance solutions since 1929. More at atlasinsurance.com.
Aloha, my kako. Welcome to a new episode of What's Kuyuet? Start every conversation with that question. I'm Ron Mizutani, and today we're talking about a sport. Well, some consider it a hobby, but it is a sport that many people know very little about. Yet, chances are you've seen hundreds of participants of this sport in your own backyards and neighborhoods, or at least above the neighborhoods. I want to welcome Dexter Wong to PBS Hawaii. Dexter has been racing pigeons in Hawaii for more than 50
years.
50, is it 50 or 55 years?
50 years.
50 years. Dexter, before we go any further, what school you went? High school.
Pro City Elementary,
Yeah.
Pro City Highlands, and Waipahu High School.
Oh, Pro City High School
I mean, not Pro City, excuse me. Waipahu High School.
Okay, no. But Pro City High School didn't exist
it wasn't. It was 2 years before.
So you're a marauder.
So the first year, the students were there were the great our governor age, David Ige.
Wow.
My brother, Derek.
They were the first graduating
that was
class.
the first to go to that school.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. So you were a marauder, not a charger, but
correct.
still a Pro City boy at heart.
Yes.
Oh, excellent. So I got to, this conversation is going to be like Pigeon Racing 101, so bear with me.
Okay.
But pigeon racing is not new. I mean, it dates back to the 1800s, correct?
In Hawaii,
Yeah.
I can remember my grandmother's brothers, two of them, did race in the 50s, even probably in the 40s, up to the 60s, and I started in the 70s.
In the 70s. So, all right, let's start from the very beginning, if you don't mind. Pigeon racing in Hawaii. So if you open the sports page, say on the weekend, and you'll see pigeon racing, right?
During the race season, yes.
During the season, is there a season for this?
Yes, there is a young bird season that starts in September and ends in November, and an old bird season that starts in March and it ends in May.
Okay. It's not the pigeons that you see at the zoo, or not at all.
No, not
those are
at
not
the zoo, not
yeah.
in the parking lots, not on the buildings.
Uh-huh.
And these are racing pigeons that we treat them as athletes, as a pet. We take very good care of them twice a day. Feed and water, cleaning the loft, vacuuming the loft, and they respond to the owners with better care.
So
they all have their own personalities.
They do. And
just like any animal, it's like any dog or cat. They can be similar, but they still have their own personalities.
So these are racing pigeons. Are they different breeds, or how does one become a racing pigeon?
It's basically through genes and genetics, and it starts with racing pigeons. You go and get from guys who race and participate, or they import birds, because like anything living, everything is genes and genetics. And a common pigeon is a common pigeon.
Yeah.
A racing pigeon is a racing pigeon.
And it's not. It's an expensive sport.
It can be very expensive.
Yeah.
From basically $100, and we paid as much as $3,500
for one
for a bird,
flyer,
where people are spending on the national scene hundreds of thousands for a bird.
I read one bird in Belgium, a Belgian pigeon,
Went to Taiwan.
$1.4 million for one.
Pigeon. That's
Pigeon.
very true. And that particular bird went to Taiwan.
Armando.
I mean, not Taiwan, excuse me, China. Taiwan used to be the big spenders for many, many, many years. I'm talking 25, 30 years. But as of the last 10 years, China, well, actually 15 years, China been really coming on strong because of their economy. And I guess the Chinese people, popular. They love birds.
Yeah, I was reading
Fish,
it.
birds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, 90,000 pigeon breeders in Beijing alone.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
So it is definitely a money
It is
a moneymaker,
Well,
a business.
it is
can
a
be.
business. It is a hobby. It is a sport.
All right, so take us to a race because you'll read Big Island to Oahu, right? So obviously the pigeons are you fly them up to the Big
We
Island.
fly them up through Aloha Cargo
Okay,
the night before,
okay,
and around 8 o'clock in the morning, as soon as sunbreak and everything's awake, they release the birds. Usually on the Big Island from Waimea, it'll be about 3.5 hours. And Hilo would be 4 hours
to get to Oahu.
to get to Honolulu. And the way it works is everything is mileage divided into flying time. Then you got your speed, your yards per minute, and that determines. So if you live in Hawaiʻi, you got your mileage, a shorter mileage. You live in Waianae, you got a longer mileage. So it's mileage divided into flying time.
So that's
Then you got your speed.
that determines the winner, the speed.
Yes, the speed.
Okay, so but are you flying one bird from your camp, if you will? How does that work?
It depends. There's the real hobbyists who just in it for just something to do. And there's the competitive guys that like to fly a little more.
A little more
Birds
flyers.
per race.
You call them birds, or what do you call them?
Birds.
Birds. Okay.
Birds.
So I'm trying to visualize what this looks like because this is audio podcast, right? So you have all of these competitors. Some of them have one flyer, one bird. Others have multiple birds.
Correct. And what we do is the races are raced on Saturdays mornings, and Friday evenings we go to the club. We put them all in a crate. You got one, you put in the first crate. You got 5, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go back to the top crate. If you got 6 or 9, so it's all you got to mix the birds up. And
You bring your best bird.
you bring the birds that are ready.
What determines if a bird is ready?
Basically, the health of the bird, the condition of the bird, that the bird was raced or trained previously, the week before. Birds will tell you when they're healthy, they act good, they're noisy, they're moving around, especially the droppings.
The poop.
Like all animals, the droppings determines a lot. They got nice round poops with down feathers, the small inside feathers, the loose feathers. They're super healthy.
Wow. So you're
So-
constantly looking at
Yeah.
poop.
Pigeons, like anything, if you got after a while, if you experience, you're gonna see. You don't have to touch the birds. You don't have to move the feathers, look at the throat, listen to the heartbeat, nothing. You just look at them, just the way they act, you know they're healthy.
And the poop solidifies
poops
that, confirms that.
Confirms that.
Wow. Okay. I'm still trying to.
It's hard to say, but you have to be almost like a part-time veterinarian
I'd imagine.
because they do have medications. Pigeons, like any live animals, they have disease, and you have, with experience, like for me, I've got a microscope that I can check for the common things. Trichomoniasis, which is canker, coccidioidosis, and worms, of course, worms.
Who taught you all this?
Experience, 50 years. I traveled to the mainland many a times.
Yes.
Just for pigeons, even just for 3 days, a weekend, been all over, from the East Coast to the West Coast.
You're a living legend. Yeah. I want to ask you because on the business side, say like Beijing, there's 90,000 breeders for a reason. I know that there's for racing, there's money involved as well.
Yes.
Is that money? Is there money involved in Hawaiʻi racing?
In Hawaiʻi racing, very, very small. If you add up all the winners, it's just like the good bowlers. You got a small group, the small 1 to 5% that makes it every year. Maybe 20% who kind of break even, and the 75% kind of donate a little.
They donate to the
Because like everything, I always say, to have a winner, you got to get a loser. To have a business, somebody got to get supply things, and people got to spend to keep that business alive. There's no such thing as everything's even.
Right, like anything else in life.
Like anything in life.
So you breed them? What do you raise them?
What we do, we breed our own birds. In fact, last week I had some birds that I purchased from the mainland because we go to this. We go and we race what we call one-off races in the mainland. That's why Ron met me at the airport post office, while I was shipping out pigeons to a one-off race. We pay an entry fee, a perch fee. We pay an entry fee. And people from all over the country, whether it's a couple hundred or some of the races, entry-wise, you got maybe 2,000 birds. And we all have to put in for a jackpot.
Wow. So that's money.
But we do have a W-9 if we win.
Good. Yeah, so
We
it's all
do
legal.
have a
It's all legit.
Yes.
It's all legit. Okay. I'm sorry. You see, whether it's for hobby or I don't know, are they training? But we see pigeons flying around our neighborhoods, and they end up going back home. How does that happen? How do you teach a pigeon how to go from Waimea, Hawaii Island to Waianae?
That's what I just was mentioning. Everything is genes and genetics, conditioning, and health. If they don't got the package, the total package, they won't come back from the Big Island. They won't even come back from Sandy Beach.
How do you train them though? How do you tell them?
What we basically do, when you see the birds flying around the loft, around the neighborhoods, they're conditioning themselves. It's just like a runner preparing for a marathon. You can't do it in one step. Step one, you have to condition yourself. To run a marathon, you probably gonna run around your street, your neighborhood, and as time go by, you go longer the distance and more flying time for the pigeons. So I live in Waipahu. So I start my first toss. Okay, the birds will be flying when they're babies, six weeks old. They just go from landing board of the loft to the house roof. 8 weeks old, they're making 2 circles, 3 circles around the house, land on the house roof. At 2 months of age, they're probably flying 10, 15 minutes, and even longer, By the time they're 3 months old, they can come back from Sandy Beach already. But it takes it from my house, Waipahu, I'll take it to Eva, to Sand Island Boat Ramp, to Alawai Boat Ramp, to Kahala Beach Park, to Hawaii Kai Boat Ramp.
Stages.
In other words, I take them to stages just like any athlete.
Mm-hmm.
You lift weights, you start with 5-pound dumbbells, then you go to 10 pounds, and that's the thing about pigeons. You have to do it gradually. When they're good and ready at 3 months of age or older, like it's a young bird season, they're basically 3 months to 9 months to 10 months old. At that time, they can race from the Big Island. They can fly at 3.5 hours, but before they go to the Big Island, they have to go Molokai.
Mm-hmm.
We train with Kamaka Airlines. Then we race from Maui, our first races, and then we go to the Big Island.
That's a couple of 100 miles, right?
Yeah. For me, it's 180 to 240.
Okay, going back, Dexter, because I still don't quite. So do you have a lead bird leading the
No,
pack?
there's no such thing
Okay.
as a lead bird. They all work with it. It's like a marathon runners. They work in packs,
Yeah.
and they work with each other. They feed off each other.
But how does say you release for training?
Mm-hmm.
How many birds are flying around at one time, and how do they end up knowing where home is?
That's the instinct part
Okay.
of the bird. That's the interesting part of the bird. That's all part of the genes and genetics of a bird.
They know where home is.
They know where home is. Everything is controlled through management as a handler, so it's basically like any animal. It starts with feeding, control feeding, without starving them. But it's controlled feeding, because if you starve them, you're going to set them back.
Mm-hmm.
But it's controlled feeding, and the amount is very important, where you can't give them, if they eat an ounce a day, on an average, a pigeon eat 1.5 ounces a day, you can't give them 3 ounces. You give them 3 ounces, they're just like any human.
They're going to gain weight.
They're going to just get too lazy.
Connect attack, right? Okay, so to be a pigeon breeder or racer or even a hobbyist, it takes an investment.
It takes an investment. There are national magazines for racing pigeons and show pigeons. And anybody who's interested should either inquire with the AU Pigeon, American Union Pigeon, or IF Pigeon, Racing Pigeons.
And
That's the national organizations, and they can give you a help. Or locally, if you know anybody who raise pigeon, just stop by, say hello, I'm interested. There was a time where Hawaii was pretty. We had 150 guys on this island who was racing pigeons. Now we're down to 40.
Wow. But the age is the gamut.
Not too much young people. They're more interested in computers, soccer, something, going to last them. And they can do without, like I said, time is involved.
It's a lot of work.
To raise pigeons, you got to be dedicated. You got to, spend some time. And it has to be consistent. If it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it's 5 o'clock. If it's twice a day, like for me, it's 9 o'clock and 4 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock and 4 o'clock every day.
7 days a week.
You can't just throw the feed and so be it. No.
Okay. You talk to your birds.
Yes, I do. I have to admit. You know, they, like any animal, they can't really communicate back to a certain extent. But to a certain extent, they can.
I believe
and
that.
they understand.
I believe, and you speak their language.
Yeah.
I believe
And
that.
it's
Pigeon.
Good one, bro. You beat me to it. So what you're saying is you speak Pigeon.
yes. We whistle to call them in to eat.
What's your whistle?
No, I don't whistle. I use a
Okay.
fishing bell.
Oh,
Because a fishing bell for me, it's a brass bell. It's like a lure, guys. You can be down the beach and you'll hear it. So it has to be consistent. So if they used to my whistle, and I'm not home that day for the race, and say if my wife or a friend is there, they can ring the bell and the birds will respond
I see.
because of the bell.
Wow. You make a living off this?
No.
No. No. You don't get into pigeon racing to make
No.
money.
On the national scene, there are some professionals, but that's all different animal.
Yeah.
That's all different guys.
Any
We just the hobbyists. Just something that we enjoy doing. You spend way more, even if you're a winner the year. For that year, you're still spending way more than you're winning. Just on feed, medication, training, entry fee
some would
in
say
Hawaii.
some
In
would
Hawaii.
say this sport hobby is for the birds.
It is just for the birds.
And that's what you do.
have to love it. That's all it is. That's why I said previously there was 150 racers at one time. Now you only got
More.
yeah.
I think
Well,
more.
I don't actually statewide had over 250 at the peak.
The numbers have dwindled.
Yes, because of the expense.
Clubs. Remember clubs at planning clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a lot of clubs at one time. We had something like, we had a Hawaiʻi club, we had a couple Waipahu clubs. Eva Beach had their club, Nunu. Pearl City had NKM. But it's a kind of dying game. I hate to say it, but for us, we'll be in it for as long as we can.
You're gonna race to the
That's
end.
all it is. It's that simple.
Good for you. Couple more questions, Dexter, and thank you for joining us. What is how many pigeons do you have at home?
Basically, during a race season, I'll start with about 50 birds. And my breeders consist of 16 pairs. And every year, come December, I'll pair the birds up and we'll have our race team of 50 birds.
One will emerge, or a few.
More than one. Usually depends on what. Some people say one. Some people can get 10. Some years I don't even have that one.
So it's all your fault.
It is.
You're the
it is.
matchmaker.
It is.
You're Cupid.
Yeah. So that's the hard part, and that's why we're in the game. There's always a challenge. Every race is a different race. You can win a race, and you can keep the bird home next week for just to rest because it exerted itself, just like any athlete. There are times where you gotta keep him home.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. When you lose a bird, whether it be for whatever reason, like any other pet, like any other friend, like any other family member, because that pets are,
Right.
it hurts.
It does.
Yeah.
To be honest, I hate to say it, but I would lose more pigeons on this island because of wires. We can take, in my subdivision, we don't have any wires at all. Everything's underground. But that's not reality. On the freeway, as you know, you see wires all over. Pro City Waiʻau Power Plant is like a fishnet.
Mm-hmm.
Wires all over the place. Birds fly in the air. Hate to say it. When they're 30 days, 60 days old, they're flying around the house, no wires.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what it is. When you release birds, even if you let go one at a time, they still don't know what wires are. And they'll hit it. Hate to say it, I lose more that way. They get injured. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of good animal people who try to look for the owners. Because every bird has a band, a number, a letter, and a year. So it's always traceable.
I see. Dexter, you've given me a crash course on pigeon racing. It was such everything happens as is, and running into you at the post office that day, just coincidentally when I saw the results in the newspaper and said, I gotta find somebody.
Okay.
And to see you with your birds being sent off to Washington State, that was serendipity. Yeah.
Thank you.
Serendipity.
Okay. Thank you.
Dexter, how old are you now? May I ask?
69.
69. You've been racing since you were
basically,
teenager.
My first year I started, I was a sophomore in high school, Waipahu High School, 1970. And we was flying in a club called NKM in Pro City. And there was only 5 of us. And one of the guys, sad to say for the people who didn't know, he passed away 2 weeks ago. And he was the rainbow pigeon guy, Doug Beater. When you used to drive through Moana Loa Road, you used to see pink, blue, green pigeons and yellow pigeons fly. That was Doug Beater.
That was Doug. Yeah, he was at weddings and
funerals,
and
all kind of
all
celebrations.
Kinds of things.
And,
we recently
events.
lost Doug. And he was also a race.
He was. We started the club, him, the father, Gordon Oyamot, and Guy Estrella in 1970.
Wow. Rest in peace, Doug. You made a lot of people and families very, very happy. And I know that folks really miss his business because it was very unique.
Yes.
It is a unique subject, and it's not unique to the world, that's for sure. In fact, like we talked earlier, China and Taiwan are leading the way, but we have our own superstars
right now,
here.
Pigeons are international. It's a national sport in Belgium, reality. But now it's international because you got Pattaya as one of the big international races. You got South Africa. You got in America, you got the Hoosier. And that's the future of the game because of time consuming. People got money to spend like anything else, any hobby. They don't have the time. So that's their way of participating in a sport, and that's the way the future is going for the game. It's what they call one love racing.
I bet. Dexter, what's your best bird joke? Or are you sick of them? Sick of them?
No
bird
bad
jokes.
bird jokes.
Some people say
just good memories.
Yeah, great memories. Other people will say, "Hey, Dexter, you fly in the coop, but you over those jokes." I bet. Hey, Dexter Wong, thanks for joining us. Continued success to you. Hey, right on. Thank you for stopping by. Mahalo nui for joining us, folks. Join us next week. Another episode of What School You Went. Until then, ahui ho.
What School You Went is a PBS Hawaiʻi production. Music by Taimane Gardner. If you enjoyed this episode, let us know on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and tell your friends. You can find us on pbshawaii.org and everywhere you get your podcasts.